Hello everyone and welcome back to Lakeside, and this is part 2 of the container yard build. So let's just see how we've got on. Bye for now. Hello again everyone. Right, so let's start at the beginning, which is the beginning of the entrance to the yard itself. So what I've done, I've inserted a Hornby curved radius point in that section there, and it fitted in absolutely fine. It's the perfect radius for it, for the main line, and then of course it spurs off to the left, and then there's a new piece of track which goes round by the side of the bridge there, and then we start the entrance proper. Now what I've got there is just an ordinary point diverting off, but what I will do, I will put in a three-way point just here, and it fits in perfectly. I've got an old three-way point, and I know that it fits perfectly there, so that I can then continue it onto this part of the track here, which then joins up onto that platform and the main line. So that's another entry exit route which I can utilise. So a three-way point will be going in here, and then if we come down, it then starts dividing off into the yard itself. And before we go up there, let's just turn round, because if we go back that way, as you saw just now, we now have the engine shed in position with the turntable. Now the turntable does work, it's fully functioning, but I haven't programmed it yet for the individual tracks, so it's a job for me to do, but I wanted to get the position right first and the tracks laid before I do any programming. So I've just finished, so I can now probably do the programming for that turntable, but it's not a mega deal at the moment. There's a few other bits and pieces I need to do first. I've got the yard lights which I had on my previous layout, so they will be dotted around the yard here. They're more of the old-fashioned style type yard lights, and many thanks to Bob for making these up for me. Absolutely beautiful lights. So that's about all the contents of the steam engine shed area. I have got another engine shed which was on my previous layout, but I probably won't be fitting that one on. I think what I've got there is just about right without being overcrowded. And I've got some nice straight, no, not straight, but gradual curves on the engine shed, which I didn't have on the previous layout. So there shouldn't be any problems for steamers to get in or out. I've included the ash pit again, which I particularly like, and I've got the coal stave of course, and a little hut. Now I'm not saying that this will stay in that position. The coal stave may move, the ash pit won't move, that will be staying there. Obviously that will be staying, and the hut might move again as well, but it gives me a kind of an idea now of the room I have available, and of course it's all got to be landscaped. But that's a fair bit of the work done. Now when it comes to dropping this down, this section, what I've got to do is cut along these tracks here so that it enables it to fold down, but it's exactly the same method as what I've done here for the lift up section, so there's no issues at all. And likewise here, I've had to plan this so that I don't cut across points, and only track, and the only track which needs cutting is across there. And again, like the lift up section and that, it will be treated exactly the same. So it was very careful placement of track to enable me to have this so that I can still take this down, well not take it down but fold it down. So we can now carry on to the actual container yard itself, and as you can see I've just done a little bit of experimentation with some foam board for the yard itself, and that's gone down very well, very pleased with that. So I should probably carry on using that method. I didn't want to use polyfiller or the likes and then have all the hassle of sanding it down. There's quite a large area to do, so once it's cut and glued, that's the end, apart from painting of course. So I will paint that with some kind of concrete paint. I can then carry on and go right the way over to here, to this edge, which is the seam where it hinges downwards, and then this will be just ballast and grass and stuff from a fence. So if we pan back, that's the effect I've got at the moment. So these 3 tracks are for the containers, and these 2 tracks are for the steamers, and we follow it down to the TMD area. That's not finished yet, so I mean the position is roughly right, but for instance the porta cabins won't stay there, the boxes won't stay there, the engine won't stay there, the pallets won't stay there, so it's all going to be shuffled around until I'm happy with it. So I've got a fueling station over there. Again, it probably will stay there, but I'm still not 100% yet. A bike rack which is lit, so I'm not putting these down permanently yet until I've had a little bit of a play to see if it works. That's the entrance to the yard from the road, so that will come down a hill there to there, where there will be a barrier which will be a lift up type barrier, so people can't just drive in, they've got to have permission. So there'll be a little hut there with a man in it inspecting the guy with the lorry, and then that lorry will drive along this part of the road here, this section, and then he'll be able to pull up at the designated position, and the crane driver will be able to pick up his load and position it wherever he wants, either on another truck or another wagon, or indeed just stack it somewhere. And I've got one of these as well, which is a mobile crane, and as you know these can trundle around the yard, pick up a container and put it on a wagon, should it not be appropriate to do it at that stage. And of course, being a hard standing, then lorries and vehicles like that can easily go across the yard. So if we look at this route, you come down from the track, the main entry, down here, onto this point here. Now if it's a steamer, they will reverse back up and go up this way, and if it's a diesel, it will continue down and go into the TMD area. And so I've put in a point there, there, there and there, so that everything has a chance to go over to whatever track they want. And while we're talking of points, up here, where is it here, there is a 3-way point, so that if locos come in head first, like the 66 there, it can uncouple, and then once this route is clear, he can then come out. He's not blocked in, he can come out and go over, or indeed if there's a, like the 08 there, he can come out and go down this central route. So nothing should be able to get locked in at that end. And everything here is manually operated, dead easy, haven't got to fiddle around with motors. And this was part of the planning. I didn't want any motors, wanted it nice and simple and uncluttered. And there's not a huge amount of points, to be honest with you. You know, if we look at it, it's just very simple operation depending on what route I want to bring in. The rails for the crane, all I did there, let me move this forward. All I did there was to cut a length of track in half and then position this single rail to the appropriate width of the legs of the crane, and then glued and pinned those down. And I've decided that what I will do is add wheels to these, because I've been playing about with it and it's not great just having it sliding up and down. If you look, you can see I cut a groove in the foot, but what I will do is put some small end gauge wheels on those, and I'll have that running on the track. I think that'd be much better. What else? Okay, so if we just go back in time a bit, there's been a few tongue-in-cheek comments about excuse me, about the manor house, not being very pleased about having all this development here. If we go back in time to 5 years ago when I started doing Lakeside, this was all planned out. The history of it going right back to the 17th century, I think it was, when the owners took over this mansion, and they were business people, and later generations they were coming on and wanted the businesses to develop. Now all this land here was theirs, they owned it, and the village. So they're wealthy, very wealthy. What they decided to do was approach the railways companies at that time and said, look, we will foot the bill to build the bridges to bring the railway through across that lake, but you have got to supply the track and the locomotives and stock, etc., which the railway people agreed to. And so eventually this opened up into a larger area. That little line over there was made for the local people, for the village. It eventually sprawled out because of the businesses they were acquiring, which were timber, coal, but of course timber and coal started to decline and they had to change businesses, and they developed over the recent years a strategy where they could utilise the old marshalling yard, which this was, hence this here are the remnants of what's left over. They developed the old marshalling yard for containers and diesels because their mines have closed down, the timber has shut down, so everything which was going to Hull and the north excuse me, had to be redesignated. So they opened up this and converted the old marshalling yard. So that's the reason for it. And the other thing to perhaps go over is, and I'm sure there's lots of people going, oh, I would have bought that in from over there, and I wouldn't have put that there, I would have put it over there. I played around with this layout for about 2.5 days, and I was originally going to have the entrance of the rail anyway coming from here, if you remember. I think I pointed that out in the first video, that I was going to bring it in from this side. It didn't work, it was never going to work. So I thought, okay, I'll do it this side. It kind of made sense because traffic on this line always goes this way, so it's a nice entrance feed to it. But that didn't work either, because if I brought it in on this track, I would have a very short, you know, you can't come in too tight. I would have a very, very short length of containers. So that was out the window. So I thought, right, well, the only other way is to bring it off the main line somewhere. And again, because the traffic is going this way naturally, I brought it in from this side rather than from that side, primarily because the village is in the way. So I couldn't do it this end, so I was only really left with one option, and that was to bring it off the main line over there. And it works a treat. So obviously I've been playing around with it. I started off by putting a point in there and a piece of track, and it all worked. I thought, okay, well, if I can carry on using that method, so I put in a point there, and I put in a point there, and that gave me the 3 tracks. What I then had to do was go, okay, well, actually I need to get traffic over to this side, to the engine shed and to the TMD, and that was come about by putting this point in. So with that point there, I could then divert off to create the 2 tracks. Now this is very limited, you know, it's the total length is 16 feet from the end of the layout there to the end of the layout right over there. That's only 16 feet. I haven't got 30 feet. So I've got to condense everything as best I can to give me what I wanted, which was steamers, container yard and a TMD. Now it's not the best solution in the world, is it? But it's a solution, and it works. It just works. I've been running up and down these tracks with the freight steamers, obviously not over the turntable but up to here. Steamers coming in off of there, diesels coming in off of there, and going onto these tracks, switching the points and taking them down to either there or up there. And it really is a simple case of just doing that, that, that. So easy. No messing around with iPads or anything. It's just a visual thing. Okay, I want to use that track, change that, job done. Couldn't be more simpler. So with that respect, I'm really, really happy, because I can sit on my chair just here and I can just have so much fun just shunting these things about. And it's not realistic, I know it isn't, but it's a problem solved for what I wanted, put it that way. I've got everything I need now in this area, everything. So all I've got to do now is finish it off. Say all I've got to do. Finish it off, and then I can go back to over there. And indeed I can do a bit of that and a bit of that. I don't have to finish this side off first before I do any work over there. It's my choice now. That's the lovely thing about it. So I'm a happy bunny. I'll use that phrase again. I really am. It's come out so well. But I did spend about 2.5 days doing nothing but planning, just laying bits of old track out, seeing which way worked, which way didn't, and I eventually ended up with this. And I couldn't be more pleased, to be honest with you. It's so simple to use. It works, and I think that by the time I finish with it, it will look quite attractive too. I have got, for the faint-hearted, I have got some edging strips to run along here so that I don't knock anything flying off onto the floor down there. I haven't put those on yet because obviously I'm still working, but I have got those to fit, which I will do this week sometime. So there we go, enough of wobbling now. I can finish, but hopefully you can appreciate that this is very, very early days yet. Lots and lots of work still to do, but you can see the way it's progressing. One thing, the lorries, they will come along, as I've said, go along there, stop, come round. This hard standing will come out to, where is it, that mark there. That hard standing will come out here, so that will enable the trucks to come round, turn round. There will be barriers so they know they're designated areas and lines painted, so they can come round, turn round and return along this part of the road and go along here. Now it would be easy, wouldn't it, for them to go across here and back out the exit, but of course they can't, because 9 times out of 10 there's going to be containers here, so they can't exit across there. The only other way they could do it would be to turn round here completely and then go back out that way, or the other method is to come along here, go down by the side here and exit and go back up the road that way. I haven't decided yet which route I'm going to do, but I'm kind of erring and favouring a turning round point here, because the rail for the crane ends here and I've got that length. I mean, obviously if that was up here, the lorries couldn't go, but they could turn within that circle there and go back round. There is enough room for 2 lorries to pass, so I think probably what I'll do is have a turnaround point here and going back out. So I think that's about it. Okay, so I shall love you and leave you, and hope you have a lovely weekend. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy. Lots and lots of tweaks to do on it yet, with repositioning of buildings, etc. But the main bulk is done. Hi again everyone, sorry about that. I've edited the ending because what I didn't do was show you anything running. So I shall rectify that now. So what I'll do, I'll bring the class 70 here, I'll take that up to here and then reverse it back down, and we'll bring it over onto the inside track and take it down to the TMD. So we'll do that now. I just need to check my points. Okay. You have to excuse me if I don't quite focus on the loco, because I'm trying to operate the iPad as well at the same time as holding the camera. Okay, reverse direction and change the points. Right, that should hopefully, with a wing and a prayer, take us to the inside track, or the outside track even, for the TMD. Fingers crossed. Looking good so far. Okay, so she's ready for fueling. So what we can do next is bring up the other 66. If I can find it on my iPad, bear with. So now we need to change points again to there and to there. That should now be able to bring out the 66 through the washing facility and up onto the main track. Doing it a bit fast, to be honest with you, but I don't want you to get bored. So it goes over this point here. Reverse, change the point. And she's on the main track, going the right way. So what could be simpler than that? So there you go. Okay people, hopefully you've enjoyed that, and obviously please leave comments below, and I'll speak to you again when I do part 3, which hopefully you will see quite a bit more done. Okay, so bye for now and have a great weekend. Bye.